Northern Kimberley Fire Plan. We do our carbon credit in these are the 4 groups we work together: Dambi, Willigan, and Wunambal. And Balangari. And these are our sponsors.
Yeah, and they're the 4 project areas in the North Kimberley Fire Abatement Project. And the map of the Kimberley there to give you some context. So all these monitoring tools that are being developed are being developed across those four groups. Next.
My name is Cathy Goonack. I'm the Wunambal Gaambera Chair and also ICN Director. There's each of the groups Healthy Country Plan and Indigenous Protected Area.
Come this way?
There are 4 of us, and we all do the same thing. And do a healthy country.
So it's all of the groups working together, and these are being produced for each group, but across the region. So Rowan and Andrew and Sophia have been working very hard on these for the last year to produce, fine-scale maps for each of the groups, much more detailed, accurate habitat maps, and then that phrase, ecological performance thresholds. So the idea is these are basically us working on new tools to use fire better to look after country. So the idea is that it'll produce better, more accurate historical maps of fire history and habitats to help us understand how those different habitats are responding to fire. So we know we're doing a really good job at a regional landscape scale, but this is about drilling down to each habitat and looking at what we should be doing, particularly in those more sensitive areas with important plants and animals. So there's a lot of smart people in this room that probably know what ecological performance thresholds are, but for people that don't, it's really about setting goals or limits for how much fire is good for country, if that makes sense. So thinking about what's too much fire, too little fire, how much late dry season fire can a certain habitat handle, and how much should we leave unburnt and for how long at that individual habitat level. And the idea is once we get our heads around the beautiful reports that those guys have written for us, that we'll use those to look back and work out, have we been doing a good job?
Anyway, you've seen a lot of these tools, the fine-scale mapping in a previous presentation, and so I won't talk about it too much, but basically it's using the finer scale satellite imagery, Sentinel and Landsat, and it's covering the whole North Kimberley, and it goes back from the year 2000 when our baseline, so where our project started, right through to present.
Last week, Rowan Fisher came to Dambi office and he brought a 3D map, and we are starting to use it. We're gonna start using it this year to show out our members, to get a more understanding, and the kids use it more at the school talk and at our board meetings. And these are some of I came down and gave us a rundown how to use the fire scale mapping, the 3D map.
And explain how you use it, different buttons and stuff, what you play with?
Yeah, you can different buttons you can press. You want to drop a incinerator thing from sky. You can put weather. Say if you want to protect something, you can put it on that, and then you'll know if a fire came through or destroyed it. It's really good for adults and kids.
only happening with the maps.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there with that image, but that's meant to be the habitat map. Anyway, that's the result. The first one is just sort of talking about the methodology for people that want to get into the methodology of producing a habitat map. But that's the final product, and so each group has a detailed habitat map because previously we didn't have good vegetation map products for the Kimberley. And so using this methodology, we've created these maps of the fire-sensitive habitat types, like rainforest patches, sandstone, woodlands, riparian, and things like that. So, this is a list of the ecological performance thresholds, which is a big word, but basically it's based on a whole lot of research that was done, particularly in the Northern Territory and Kakadu and other parks, looking at what are those different fire-sensitive habitats, what do they need in terms of fire to make them healthy or not healthy. So that's things to do with fire frequency, how long they are left unburnt, how many late dry season wildfires, and the patchiness of the fires, how big the fires are. I won't go into them in too much detail, but I'll just use one example on the next slide. So sandstone shrubland, that's a picture of it there. So it's fire sensitive because it has some plants, some shrubs that they can only come back from, they're killed by fire and they can only come back by seed. And that makes them sensitive because if the fires are too frequent, then they can't reproduce. But they have other things in them. Next slide. With those things like small mammals and some birds like the black grasser in there that can't move too far if their country gets burned out, and also important cultural sites. So this next slide shows some of the ecological performance thresholds for sandstone shrubland. So there's 3 different ones there. The top one, glasses on, is the frequency of fires over any 5-year period. And so there shouldn't be more than one fire in any 5-year period. And you can see that no more than 10% should have more than one fire in any 5-year period. And that's not really being achieved across most of that area. So that one's not quite on track. The second one is the frequency of fires in any 3-year period. And you can see that in some years that's being achieved, but it's still not quite on track. And the third one down the bottom is the frequency of large fires, bigger than 100. Anyway, can't remember that one, but yeah, the frequency of large fires in any 5-year period. And you can see that that one's is well on track across the project area. And then the map there shows it's kind of a combination of all of them, but you can see the areas in red are where the thresholds aren't being achieved, and the areas that are in green are where the threshold's being achieved. And so you can use that map to see, well, where are the problem spots and what can be done to to improve those. So the next step is that now that each group's kind of getting these products and getting reports to summarise these results across their project areas, it's kind of a new thing for them, and it's a little bit can be a little bit of a surprise if some things aren't on track, and so everyone has to put their head around and think, what does it mean for us? We're planning to have a workshop to refine these thresholds because they've been developed for the Northern Territory, and some things in the Kimberley are a little bit different. Some of the habitats are different, and if some of those thresholds aren't being met in any year, then it might be that something's not quite right in the way they've been framed. And also, not all of the habitat is the same. Some areas have more important animals and plants than others, so it might need to be prioritisation of where they're applied. There was a presentation earlier about Smurf, and so using dashboards like that so that we can quickly look at our results each year and without having to be an expert in statistics or GIS to get the results. And lastly, how do we need to change our fire work to meet those thresholds? What are we doing wrong, or what needs to be changed to do it better? that's about it. And just to acknowledge, the funding for a lot of this mapping work came from WWF, and Charles Darwin Uni did a lot of the research. Thanks.